This is Ben Leonard, and this is a presentation that I gave to a nutrition group I'm a part of on June 9th, 2018. It is about cold water training. The outline of this presentation is starting with key points, then going into my experience with cold water, how I found that the body responds to cold water, and going into my training plan and strategies that I used. Then I will throw in a few other observations which didn't fit into anything else. Then I'll talk about some inspirational people for cold water training. And then I'll summarize and give a few takeaway points. I've put a lot of text on these slides to help me remember everything, so it may be easier to just listen without watching. So these are some of the key points about cold water training. When you get through this presentation, I'd like you to have come across these or observe these from the what I've been talking about first. So anyone can do cold water training, something that can be moderated so you can do it at your own pace. And you have to remember to keep it fun because you can train too hard very easily. Also, cold water training has been done by a large portion of the population in some places. People of all ages can do it, people of all health conditions can do it. And in some places, lots and lots of people do it. In other places, almost nobody does it. Both health intellectuals and people just trying to deal with their health problems and looking for something that will help them get by in life found benefits from cold water training. Whatever your mindset or point of view, you can do it cold water training. And cold water training can be an intellectual exercise because the body's reaction is so complex. You can really study and keep on learning and observing this. You can also keep this sport up throughout your life. Some sports are only for young people, but this is a sport that you won't get too old to participate in. The first time I remember having an experience relating to the cold was when I visited my grandparents' house. The temperature had to be within a varying band. If it was hotter than that, they were sweltering. If it was colder than that, they were too cold. And my thought was, well, if you have to be at 75 degrees plus or minus a couple degrees, that's pretty tough. You're going to have a hard time enjoying yourself anywhere. And I didn't want to end up like that, but maybe that's just a part of getting old. Another thing was visiting Lake Michigan. It's a traditional place for my family to vacation. I remember the first time I really got in and enjoyed the water. The temperature was about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. But even after that time, I always wanted to get back in, but I found that frequently it was too cold to get in, or maybe you could get in, but it wasn't really enjoyable because of the cold temperature. You couldn't stay in for very long. I think I did my first cold water training during graduate school. I don't remember the exact time or the length of the period. The basic thing was I took a brief cold shower every day, and I continued this streak for about a year. It was while I was doing this that I began my streak of getting into the water every time I visited Lake Michigan. And there's not really much thought that went behind this other than I want to be able to get my body so I can jump into the lake. And at some point, I think it was during the middle of the winter, just feeling tired, didn't really feel like it. So I said, okay, I'm going to get a hot water shower today. That felt really good. And I was just like, okay, that's it. And so I stopped. And I think I was probably pretty mentally exhausted from cold water training at that point. So then you could say, began my introduction to theory, or found out that there was something beyond just fiddling around. I met Dr. Fleckenstein online. I learned about Sebastian Kneipp from her. She is a doctor who specializes in European and natural medicine. And Sebastian Kneipp is a German monk from the 19th century. He's a forefather of naturopath medicine, especially for Germany. This was the first time I learned that there could be health benefits from cold water, and that seemed pretty interesting. I also learned there are different types of cold water therapies or baths. One is doing a partial bath. You could also do or part of your body. You don't have to put the whole body in. You can do a bath or a shower. You can also just vary water temperatures. So many of the parts of the world take cold water training very seriously. And at this time I began cold water training a second time, and I also started being on the lookout for information about this topic. I think I continued for some time and then I stopped, but I don't really remember how this phase ended. Third phase was learning about Wim Hof. And Wim Hof does a lot of amazing feats of cold water endurance, such as swimming underneath ice, climbing snowy mountains only in shorts, or running, spending world record times completely covered in ice. So I started finding about him online through, I think, different YouTube videos and articles. And he's kind of popularized cold water training relatively recently. And by recently, I mean the past, I don't know, 10 years or less. I don't really know. I think he's probably become more and more popular over the time that he's done it. And I think I discovered him about the time that I finished graduate school. At this point, I had more time and energy to devote to training and exploring new ideas. And at this point, I started cold water training a third time. And so for this cold water training, I'm more, I remember it better. It was more systematic. So the first thing I did was I read about a Spartan challenge online where you did a whole bunch of challenges for 30 days. One of them was taking a cold shower. So I went through 30 days. And then after that, I altered a little bit. So instead of taking Sundays off for a warm shower, and that allowed me to make it more sustainable. The showers were not very long, it was just short, just enough to get washed off. And I continued for this for about a year, and I got used to, and I think after that point I got used to it. When I went to like Michigan, I noticed major changes in terms of my cold water abilities and how hard it was to get in the water. After I learned about Wim Hof, I decided to try taking a cold bath based on some of the stuff that he had written about. So I filled up the bathtub with cold water, on a warm day, and I got in. I think I stayed in for about a minute and a half. I'm not sure exactly. And then I couldn't take it anymore, so I got out. And I was just feeling so cold. I think I kind of had an adrenaline dump because my body was so stressed out by this. And I felt cold for hours. And so I went out to jog to warm up. Helped a little bit. I just felt really bad. It took me a few days to feel normal again. And at this point I decided with the other training I was doing it was too much to do things like this. So I returned to taking my daily cold showers. After reading another book by Wim Hof, I was inspired to start taking longer cold showers because I realized I was missing some of the benefits from just taking shorter ones. So I continued taking longer showers for a couple of weeks, and eventually I started feeling tired and I started dreading the showers. And so because in at least the first and maybe the second time I started training, that's kind of how I stopped, because I just started dreading it. I decided let's pull back and just go with the short showers. Doing a long shower is just too hard. Then I learned about Charlie Francis, and from him I learned about central nervous system fatigue. This is actually sprinting, but I applied the same concept. The idea is the closer you are to your maximal effort, the more it taxes the central nervous system. And different things such as, say, weightlifting and cold water training and taking a really important test, although they all would use different parts of the body that wouldn't necessarily overlap, they all are really intense. They all tax the central nervous system. So from the point of view of the central nervous system, all of that stuff adds on top of each other. It's not separate. So I picked 2 days to do hard cold water training. That's Monday and Friday, the same days I was doing my hard physical training. And then the other days it was just really light cold shower. Water temperature was the same, but I was just spending enough time in to sort of warm up or to activate my cooling or warming series or warming system. Just get the blood flowing the same way. If you're doing training on an easy day, you don't sit around and do nothing. You get out and you do kind of a little bit of work. And then what I would do is I'd step up the hard days every month or two. I'd make it increase the intensity, and that was when I really started to take off. So now we'll move into the body's response to cold water. So this is based on my sort of analysis of how my body has worked. It's not starting from reading and then looking for it myself. So I've noticed 3 basic things. First is an immediate response, which is different types of pain. Second, there's a short-term response, which is your body starting to warm itself. And then third, there is a long-term response, which is the body remodeling. In terms of pain, this is the body sending stress signals when it gets unpleasantly cool. So there's first an immediate pain, which feels like it's on the skin, and it seems to be related to the temperature of the water, and it's maybe a protection from your body worrying about the skin freezing. It's just felt on the surface, and it tends to be dominant in the first minute and then kind of go away after that. The second is from heat loss. This feels more like a draining feeling on the inside of your body. You're running out of energy, and your body's pushing itself to generate the heat to keep you warm, and then running through its energy reserves. And the key factor here seems to be the heat transferred into the water to keep up your core temperature. So it's not just dependent on temperature, it's dependent on a number of other things as well. And it's felt primarily in the upper torso, of the chest, and the armpits. This primarily takes place after the first minute because initially the body hasn't really lost that much energy. And then certain parts of the body are also more strongly affected than others. The head, the face, that can be both the scalp of the head as well. The collarbones are more sensitive to cold. The peripheral parts of the body, such as the fingers, tend to feel the immediate shock more, and the core, such as the stomach and chest, feels the heat loss more. Next, the short-term reaction. This is body warming itself. So body sensing that it's getting cold causes it to put in place different protocols to warm itself. So one is just that the body's temperature lowers. This is more not really a reaction, it's just a result of the coldness. It takes place when you're not able to respond adequately by generating heat. And primarily you just don't feel warm inside, you feel kind of cold. And recovery, getting your core temperature up, could take hours or it could take days. A meal is very helpful in re-warming yourself, since typically after a hard training day I'll feel better after lunch. Next, you warm yourself through blood circulation. The body redirects its blood to deal with the cold. So this is something that everyone does, but you become more efficient at it with training. This requires some sort of strength of the circulatory system and the ability to heat the blood. It's hard to tell exactly what, but you can definitely feel that this improves as you get better. And your body takes two approaches. The first is to abandon the skin, which is where it turns white, and this tends to happen when you're less well trained. Second is to reinforce the areas that are cold, and then it turns red. This happens more when you're in better shape. Although this may vary, because I'd read with cold water swimming that the body always abandons the skin. At least long distance cold water swimming that they do in the ocean. So the second slide of warming. You generate warmth through burning fat or with your body fat. I'm not sure how where the energy comes from. This is a learned response. The body can't do it well unless it's trained. The body starts this, I think, about 20-30 seconds maybe for the body to activate. Though that time probably varies based on your training. And then there's shivering. This is the body's last ditch result. It happens when you start vibrating your muscles in order to get yourself warm. And this just happens when all of the other mechanisms are sort of maxed out and you're not getting enough heat. When you're well conditioned, you don't shiver much. You might shiver towards the very end of your workout, but yeah, you're not going to shiver too much. And this response is done by everyone. It's done more by less well-conditioned people. Now we've got the long-term response. So one is that the warming mechanisms change over time. One, the body becomes redder due to better circulation. Second, you have less shivering because you're generating more heat through the fat and through circulation. Also, you warm yourself back up more quickly after the cold shower. Your body also increases the amount of brown fat it has. White fat mainly serves as insulation, but brown fat generates heat. When an infant is born or baby is born, it will have a lot of brown fat right away, but most of it will be lost by the end of the first year. You get better circulation with stronger blood vessels, and that helps your body warm itself. You increase your ability to burn energy. One thing that people notice is that your metabolism goes up when you're doing a lot of cold water training. So that means your body's just generating more heat. You feel warmer in everyday situations. This is the last one to, I think, appear. But after a while, you will notice, during the next season, wow, that was not as bad as last year in terms of the cold. So now we'll move on to training advice. So the first is, what factors do you want to control? 1 is the water temperature, 2 is the length of exposure, and 3 is the quantity of water. I like to keep the water temperature setting constant on the tub or shower. That way it's one less thing to struggle with. And the cold water you get will vary throughout the year. It will be warmer during the summer, colder during the winter. If you keep your water setting separate, then your temperature is going to go up and down throughout the year. But it's hard to really control directly. Next is the length of exposure, how long you stay in the bath or shower. And finally, the quantity of water, the shower flow rate or the bath depth. The more water you have going over you, the more heat it will pull out. So next, as you train, you will find yourself going through cycles. One is an annual cycle of water temperature. So what I do is I increase the length or the quantity of water that I shower in during the summer, and then try to hold that constant during the winter as the water temperature drops. And I also think it's good to just take a week off every so often and give your body a chance to do repairs. I do all my training in cycles, so I've got a weekly cycle, which is 2 hard times for me. You could maybe do 3 times hard, but for me, 2 times hard is better. And these are the days you push your body pretty hard, not to the maximum it can do, but getting yourself, really challenging yourself. Then you've got easy days. These will be the other weekdays. For me, that's Saturday and then Tuesday through Thursday. Here you're just getting blood flowing and stimulating the body. For me, this is a short shower. And then you have off days where you can take a warm shower or bath. So I use Sunday for that. The easy days and the off days help you recover. The hard days are where you make your big gains. Here's a figure which shows the time and temperature from my showers. This starts in March 2017 for the length, and for the actual temperature it starts in January 2018. They both go towards to June. And what you see for the cold water temperature is it stays pretty constant. It was just about 50 or just under during most of the winter. You can see that in March, that it rises in May. That's actually because I moved to a new apartment, but you can see also it's starting to drop in January. I'm not sure when it starts to drop overall, but I think it was maybe in October or November that we started feeling the water getting a lot colder. My old apartment, I think, goes up at around 60 during the summer. Now with my new apartment, it's up at 60. Then doing the length of the shower, when I first started, I was doing 2 or 3 minutes, and then I ended up just saying, I think, doing a little bit of overtraining. Then I just settled in doing 3 minutes for the hard day, 2 days a week. And then once a month, I'd hop it up to then going to 4 to 5 to 6. Then I hopped it up to 8, and then I kept at 8 until around mid-January, where I got sick pretty bad. And so in order to recover, I stopped taking really long cold showers because they're very taxing and you need the energy to recover. And when I got done with that, I was feeling pretty weak, and so I kind of slowly built myself back up. But that 49-degree water was pretty tough. I think that was probably might have been colder than when I got sick, but due to the lack of training, just took me some time. I ended up getting back up to 8 minutes just before I moved to a new apartment. And then during the new apartment, the water temperature was a lot warmer, so I switched to taking baths. So I started at 6 and then went to 8 minutes, where I'm holding steady. So a few more observations. Elderly often feel cold, and people today probably feel more cold than people did in the past. Notice a lot of people mention feeling cold. I think this could be due to our climate control systems getting weaker due to lack of exercise. I think we might just feel cold because our warming system atrophies. Cold water drains a lot of calories, but also increases your appetite. It is unclear whether it aids or hinders weight loss. So I'm not sure if this is a good way to lose weight or not. I talked or read about an ocean swimmer, and he had said that, I remember him saying someplace that ocean swimmers often carry a little bit of weight on their stomach because the fat just serves as insulation. So it's more to help you withstand the cold as opposed to looking good. But maybe some people lose weight doing it. The body reacts differently at different temperatures. I had a hard time adjusting to sub-50-degree water during winter. I've been used to water in the mid to high 50s before. Then there are no overuse injuries from cold water training. This makes it easier to overtrain, but it also means that you don't have to worry about your joints. If you do running, if you do weightlifting, if you do tennis, if you do golf, at some point you're going to be like, oh, my back, oh, my knee, oh, my elbow, oh, my wrist, I can't go anymore. I have to see the doctor. Eventually the doctor says, okay, look, you're just not quite so young anymore. You can't play as hard. With cold water training, I don't see any reason why you couldn't do this your entire life. So now we're moving on to famous people who are inspirational for cold water swimmers. One is Sebastian Kneipp. He lived from 1821 to 1897 in Germany. He was a poor weaver's son who became a monk. When he was in seminary, he got tuberculosis. The doctors couldn't cure him. He was written off, and they assumed he was going to die. So he looked in the library, and while he was reading, he found an old tract describing cold water cure, and he used this to heal his tuberculosis. He went on to develop a system of health, and it's water, movement, nutrition, herbs, and life balance. So those 5 pillars don't seem all that controversial today. Dr. Alexa Fleckenstein has written about Sebastian Kneipp, and was trained in traditional medicine in Germany, so her knowledge would be influenced by Sebastian Kneipp. She's written books about him. She uses the 5 pillars of health and tries to adjust them for the modern world and all ability levels. And she's written several books. Another inspiration is Wim Hof. He's a Dutch cold and breathing specialist. And he, as we mentioned earlier, does a lot of cold feats, or feats of cold endurance. He also trains people cold endurance. He thinks that this has a tremendous potential to improve the world, and so he's trying to increase its popularity and spread the word. He has, as part of this program, he's trying to do a number of different things. One is to get publicity by doing stunts and setting records. The second is participating in scientific studies to show health benefits from cold water. He's trying to popularize cold water training, and he's trying to show that this training can improve the lives of anyone. For his method, it combines cold water training and breathing. It's similar to the Tumo meditation, which is, I think, done by Buddhist monks. You do your breathing to kind of activate the body, and then you can get into the cold water without really feeling it. I generally don't do this just because it makes the cold water training take a lot longer, and I'm usually in a hurry to get to work. And many people have seen serious health conditions improve using the Wim Hof method. Cold water swimmers are another inspiration. This is kind of an oddball sport, typically on open water, and there can be triathlons or just open water swimming, or challenges like trying to cross the English Channel. Not an expert on everything that's written here, but I have looked at a few websites that have a lot of information to give anyone that's interested in cold water training. There's some interesting aspects of this that I thought I'd include in the presentation. In water, you create a layer of warm water around your skin, so it's harder to stay warm sitting than standing still. Or it's harder to stay warm swimming rather than sitting still. Cold endurance is temperature and duration dependent. If you're adjusted for swimming in 55 degree Fahrenheit water, you're not necessarily adjusted for swimming in 45 degree water. And cold water training greatly increases your appetite and metabolism. Russians, it seems like this sport Russia may be the one country that's the most into cold water training. If you look on the internet, you'll find lots of pictures, videos, and stories about Russians and doing cold water training. One thing that's common is for people to pour a cold bucket of water over themselves to start off the day. Some of these people are health enthusiasts, but also a lot of school children do it to reduce the number of colds. And then you have health groups, which one I remember reading about that swam the river every day of the year, even when there's ice. And a lot of the people started because of health problems. And one person I remember saying, like, yeah, I started because of my whatever health problem, and then it went away. So I said, yay. So I stopped doing this, and then it came back. So now I'm just doing this indefinitely. The people don't always look healthy, but in these groups, but sometimes that's because they're doing it because they're in poor health. Eastern Orthodox, it appears to be an Eastern Orthodox Christian tradition, is that Epiphany people go into the ice water. So to just go over the key points that I talked about again today, cold water training has grown from a passing idea to an area of keen interest in my life. I find it pretty cool. Second, the body responds to the stress of cold water in a predictable manner, and it's going to adapt over time to cold water exposure in ways that will allow it to warm itself better and help you to better endure the cold. Training plans can be easily generated by keeping in mind a few key concepts. And the main thing to remember is just don't push yourself too hard. So if you're looking for a sport where it's okay to be lazy, then this might be the sport for you. Just want to make it fun and not burn yourself out. And then there's a wide number of people that have sort of pushed in the limits in this area, and they've created a large body of knowledge about cold water swimming, and you should be able to find even more than what I've written on the internet from searching around and reading it. Here's some books that might be of interest to you if you like this presentation. Health 2.0 by Alexa Fleckenstein and Roanne Weissman. They wrote about Dr. Fleckenstein's health protocols based on Sebastian Kneipp, and it's kind of find Kneipp's methods to the world today. And then there's Sebastian Kneipp, Water Doctor. This is a historical fiction about Sebastian Kneipp. Mostly sticks to the facts, but she kind of puts in information based on how she thinks he was feeling. That, of course, you can't know what was in his head, but it does make it probably more interesting reading. So it's just a straight historical document. Another book is Becoming Iceman by Wim Hof and Justin Rosales. He was a college student that went to train with Wim Hof and wrote about it. Another book is The Way of the Iceman by Wim Hof and Cohen de Young. Cohen de Young is another Dutchman, and he wrote this book based on his work with Wim Hof. So now that we are wrapping up, I'd like to hopefully review a few things that you picked up. One is that anyone can do cold water training. I got into this just by playing around, and it seems like there's much more information than there was back then. So anyone can do this. You don't have to push yourself any harder than you want to. You just gradually start building up over time. That's what I did. Over the course of a couple of years, you'll make a really significant difference in how well you can withstand the cold. You'll notice some changes within, say, a few weeks, but to really modify your body, it takes time. In some places, a large portion of the population has done cold water training, for instance, in Russia with the Eastern Orthodox celebration of Epiphany. There's lots and lots of people doing this, so that proves that this isn't something only a small portion of the population is capable of. Maybe you can only reach elite levels if you're really elite, but you can play around and do stuff, have fun, and improve all the time. Both health intellectuals and people just trying to deal with their existing health problems have benefited from cold water. Whether you're just interested in this or you're trying to publish papers, this is a good place to research. Cold water training also can be an intellectual exercise because your body's reaction to cold water is so complex. So if you want to do it, you can make it your brainchild and really dig in and learn stuff. And this is something you can continue the rest of your life. So I'd like to thank you for listening to this presentation. And on my website, benjaminleonard.com, you should be able to download the PowerPoint presentation.